From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars, pop culture, and the ultimate adventure, life itself. We're live on a Tuesday. I'm Ken Knapsack.
I'm Jen Lando.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, and I'm also alive on a Tuesday, which is a nice feeling.
Mm-hmm. It is. It is indeed. We're here for Star Wars questions, as always. We've been broadcasting live on Mondays. I was traveling yesterday, so thanks to Joseph, Jennifer, and all of you allowing us to push it here to Tuesday. We've got a big question. All of our fans and friends are checking in. Vetnik's here, Jeannie from Tahini, Eli, James, Crafted Jedi 66, Cameron Stewart, Josh Bernard, Ziggy Space Dust is here.
Love it.
Yep. Got some friends from the UK who are having a good evening. Amazing to hear from people in the future, and hope it's a good evening in the future. We should also say that we are going to be doing our live stream Q's episode like this next Tuesday as well.
Right.
So yeah, join us on Tuesday noon Central, a week from today on the 27th, and then we're also going to be doing our end of the month live stream bonanza, 2 p.m. Pacific on Friday, May 30th. We're going to be talking about favorite moments in Andor. We will bring some, but we also know that all of you in the chat will bring more than enough for us to discuss about favorite moments. It's been fun to be in this sort of strange, we're basking in the glow of Andor, where almost everybody likes it and misses it. And wants to say nice things about it. It's a nice place to be in, I think, right, Ken?
Absolutely. I'm not ready either. I might do a little bit of a rewatch, though. I'm trying to force myself to watch some things that don't have, laser swords, blasters, or even the lack of laser swords. I am enjoying other things as well. But I'm taking in all the interviews. I normally don't do that as much anymore, but if you wrote on Andor and you sat for some podcast with 2,000 followers and 400 views, I'm watching it. I'm watching your interview. I'm there. Prop up the smaller channels. Let's do it.
Lexi Lex says, that's Maddie Gunner. Sorry. Lexi Lex says, post-Andor depression is real. And Maddie Gunner says, hello.
Yes. Lexi Lex, I felt the same way. Last week, I was really sad. I was in a funk. I could not get out. And I was like, what is it? And I realized it wasn't just the loss of the characters and kind of the ritual of watching every week these new stories. I've just grown to love this cast, the crew, having them, these interviews randomly pop up, seeing Diego Luna on the Star Wars Instagram. It's just been nice. And I feel like my friends are going away, but they're not. They'll live in our hearts forever.
Mm-hmm.
Now you understand how I felt on, the final episode of Cheers, even though I didn't watch that show regularly. They did such a good job of making me feel sad that I'm not going to hang out at the bar with my friends.
Yeah, I watched Cheers religiously, and that was a sad night.
It was.
A sad, difficult night. A slightly more uplifting ending than Andor. But only a little.
And uplifting all of them drunk on the Tonight Show. But anyways, that's pop culture history for another time.
Yeah. Well, we love taking one big cue for these live streams and then seeing what other questions flow from you all in the chat. As always, we deeply appreciate any super chats. We'll try to take all questions. We will for sure take any super chats. So if you want to help us out and keep the channel growing, that's a great way to do that. But let's get into the question. This comes to us from our Patreon supporters on Patreon. There is a post there. It also has a picture of Beaston. Because apparently when I need to pull a Rogue One picture, I just go to Beaston. And if you have a question that you'd like to discuss, feel free to add some there if you are a patron on Patreon. But this one comes to us from Ronald White. Ronald says, greetings. After watching Andor and immediately Rogue One, it occurred to me that fans must be appreciating the movie more. I'm a huge fan of the From a Certain Point of View anthology books of the original trilogy. My question is, do you think Rogue One deserves to be included now as part of that anthology? So this is something that people have discussed about the prequels as well, and when other films might be getting that From a Certain Point of View anthology treatment. I think that's a great, straightforward question about would we like a Rogue One From a Certain Point of View anthology, and fun to discuss which characters and what perspectives. But I also thought this was a fun way to discuss just how connected Andor and Rogue One are, because almost all the characters I thought of immediately are like, yeah, I wonder what Clay is doing during Rogue One. So Jennifer, how do you feel about this big picture idea?
First, we have to address JMB's question, because this is a good question. Out of curiosity, are we talking spoilers for Andor? Because my butt is still way behind. So, what do you guys say? I'm guessing we're probably going to talk spoilers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, JMB. But yes.
Yeah. Apologies,
Yeah.
but yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I understand.
And spoiler alert. Okay. Yeah. It's interesting, and I rely on you guys for this because I have not read any of the From a Certain Point of View books or stories, whatever you want to call them. And they sound pretty wild. There was one about the flea, one about the Dianoga. Like, I feel like they just go all over the place, which could be really fun with Andor, or it could get a little wacky. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Jennifer, the flea was from the Legends of Luke Skywalker, Tales of
right.
Ken Liu book. But yes.
That's right.
But Dianoga was for the first one.
Dianoga was
absolutely
the first one. Okay.
there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will say this about, I read the A New Hope one and The Empire Strikes Back. I have the Return of the Jedi one, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet. And in some ways, they are the most mixed bag of Star Wars storytelling. In both of those volumes, there are stories that, like, not only do I love this has informed my understanding of the character, of the galaxy. Yoda pining to train Leia because, like, she's smart, she's dedicated, she sees the big picture. Oh, she's a perfect Jedi candidate. And this kid going zip zoom wanting to blow stuff up, that's the one that I, like, there's stuff like that in those books. And then there's stuff that I'm just like, yeah, that didn't happen. It is from a certain point of view, and I do not accept that for my personal headcanon. There's some stuff in those books that, like, not for me, and not going to be negative and say it's badly done, but just like in our celebration of embracing art in a subjective manner, there's some stuff that's wildly not for me in those books, and some stuff that I love with all my heart. It's the most back and forth for me. Ken, what is your big picture reaction to those anthology books?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I've not read the Return of the Jedi one. Don't know if I will, gonna be honest. I love the New Hope one more than the Empire one. It's got great stuff. When it hits for me. You're talking about the Yoda wanted to review train Leia, but that's beautiful. That whole sequence that he's sleeping in, like, Qui-Gon's cloak or something. Like, I love that one. Friend of the show, Madeline Rue, wrote the Eclipse one, which is the final moments of Bail and Brea. It makes me cry. I love it. It's one of my favorite little pieces of Star Wars storytelling. There's a lot of good things to celebrate. But the Dianoga one, I just flat out do not agree with. Like, I flat out go, nope. But it's also a beautiful story. Like, I like it. There's more of those in the Empire ones. I won't go into the details because it gets catty, but there's some where I'm just like, yeah, no, I disagree with your perspective, everything about it, and that's not a Star Wars thing I accept, and I hate to get grumpy about it. So I've been less invested in them. But the grand purpose overall of the anthology series is something I'm completely on board with, which is part of what we're discussing here today.
Yeah, I love the spirit of it, that even the most minor character has perspective, has value. And I think I really like the stories that feel like this is just digging into that character and how would that character feel about it. And then there are ones because, they're throwing the net wide and inviting a lot of different authors to contribute. I think sometimes authors who haven't done Star Wars before and might never, their stories almost feel like a statement on Star Wars. And I enjoy the stories that I feel like just like, what was going through Ponda Baba's mind on that day? What did he have on his mind? So if there's a story that was like, what's going on in Ponda Baba's head? But then if there was kind of like a meta story that's kind of poking fun at why was Ponda Baba on Jeddah? Let's explain how he got to Hoth. The stories to me go back and forth between being really character rich and where I almost kind of feel the author trying to make a statement about Star Wars, about canon. And I think that's the dividing line for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lean more towards what people are saying in the chat, which is like focusing on the Gormans and like the guy the bellhop or the hotel employee or maybe a tailor. I always love talking about tailors in Star Wars. A tailor on the planet Gorman. I think that those kind of things could be really interesting. The ISB That could be really interesting. When we start to get into the Yavin stuff and the rebellion, I become a little bit more wary of things exploring canon in a way, because these books they're not canon, correct? They're not considered to be canon, or what are they? It's like mishy-mashy.
They played fast and loose with that.
Yeah.
Right. So that could get sticky when we're talking about the rebellion and Yavin and things like that. So what are you going to do? Ignore all of that? I don't know. But there's a lot to mine, certainly from there.
I mean, I think if I'm remembering correctly, which I might not be, I believe in the New Hope one, they're back-to-back stories about prepping for the battle for Yavin. And in one of them, there aren't enough ships to go around for pilots. And in another one, there are too many pilots per ship. It's like even within the book, directly, like,
Okay.
So that, that's part of it. I think one of the fun things to discuss is people are already jumping in and doing is with Rogue One in particular. We can jump to Andor, but with characters seen in Rogue One, Jennifer, who would you want a fresh perspective from in the film Rogue One?
With Rogue One? Besides Bistan? Bodhi Rook could be interesting. Of course, Saw would just be fascinating to be in his head. That could be really interesting. I mean, there's just so many, but I feel like, again, haven't some of these characters already been explored in books?
Yeah, like in the Rogue One novelization and things like that. Yeah, so I think for me, it would be more about like my first one, and somebody already made this comment, would be like Bor Gullet, and I'm not joking, of like, this is a being that feeds on thoughts that is going to react negatively if you lie to it. I would love some trippy story from the Bor Gullet's perspective, and trying to keep different truths straight, and what weird relationship does it have to the Force, and does Saw use Bor Gullet sometimes when the Rhydonian huffing's not enough for him? So I think to me that's more where I'm at than needing to get into the heads of main characters, or like somebody else was saying, all of the different belief groups to explore on Jedha and all that kind of thing. Ken, where would you go with characters or perspective that you want to hear from Rogue One in particular?
Yeah, because these books are all about a certain point of view, right? So there's a lot of side characters, the background weirdos that have stories to tell, including that one Darth Vader. Like, what is going through his head when Krennic comes for a business meeting? But you could tell that story through Vinay's eyes. In terms of Saw, I would take Saw's final moments. I think that would work for me. There's some off-camera stuff with Bodhi that could work for me. But we got the Hammerhead captain. We've got who's the? I'm trying to look up. I'm scrambling. It's I think a lieutenant. He's the guy that when they're hey, we need to turn that. We need to get the communication relay go, and he's like, I'm on it, and he dies in that second. Like, what is his story up to that moment? I think there's things like that I would enjoy. A lot of people calling for Noah Jabal at his point of view at that meeting. Let's get what is she proposing guy's story, whoever that is.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to cut to some alien that has like just a giant microphone for a mouth, which is why it's so loud and echoey. When what is she proposing is shouted out. A lot of great thoughts in the chat. Agree with Will Dixon of Beezer Fortuna. Ghost Crew is a great one, right? Because yes, Hera and whoever else is there. We know Hera and Chopper is there because we see Chopper and we hear Hera get called. That they would probably really be on the Raddus side of things, right? They would probably be pretty frustrated with the way that alliance vote goes. That would be awesome.
Igor brigaded this. I just on my Rogue One rewatch on that final Andor day. He's so right. What is she proposing guy next to just let the girl speak guy? Just let the girl speak guy doesn't get the headlines because he's not as loud, but it's there. I'd love that.
What I'm forgetting the name of the species, but what if it's like the Foden Beads, the pod racer announcer, and it's technically the same two heads, one being who's saying both of those lines, like, go have a fight with yourself outside.
Love that.
Like Jay from Nowhere's POV of a rebel in the hallway. Oh,
Totally.
can you imagine?
I
Oh,
would love that. Because I do think that some of the rebels are, very well. They say, "May the force be with you." Right? They're tuned into this was the galaxy as it was. They probably heard rumors of Vader. So, like, I would love to hear the perspective of somebody's like, "Oh, that's Vader. I've heard about him too." What the hell is that at the end of the hallway?
yeah.
True monster. James highlighting Nail. Isn't it? It's Nail, right? Or one of the many names of Jyn Erso's cellmate.
She has 8 million names. That character now.
Yeah.
Right.
Because in the Rogue One novelization, you get more of Jyn's perspective in that scene. So let's flip that. Let's flip that and reverse it. Ken Plume's got one. He's got a super chat for just B2 emo. So we're not necessarily talking about Andor, but moving the characters forward from Andor into the show, into this book that we're editing here for Rogue One is great. B2 emo playing tag on another planet. Be great. But Ken Plume says, let's see Supervisor Legret during Rogue One with the loss of Partagas and soon the loss of Yularen as the ISB falls apart. Yes, and what does he do in his bunker?
Yeah. I'm grabbing a couple other ones that people suggested. Jared, thank you for hopping in with the super chat. Just hopping in quick to say hello there. Thank you, Jared. And let's see what our friend Ken Plume says. Just B2 emo, all B2 emo. Yes, I think a Rogue One book that can contain lots of Andor characters. You could just have a book that's like all the characters find out about what happened to Cassian. Then you just have a Cassian memorial book where a chapter from B2 emo, chapter from Bix, chapter from Bell, from Clea. Oh, Mothma.
Cassian, a memorial.
Yeah, Cassian, a funeral one-shot comic book.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Shout out to PLD who used his work profile to scare all of us. That was me. He would love a Rogue One. This would have marked the first time since 2015 that Harloff was on this channel. I would love a Rogue One anthology book based on Andor, Rogue One, New Hope, Watch Her All to make it last. Love you, PLD. Love you, PLD. Get back to work. Get back to work. Your boss won't like that.
Oh, that makes me laugh. Okay.
Maddie Gunner. Yeah, the girl that Jyn saves in the street. I got bad news for you, Maddie.
Oh.
She ain't all grown up. If you read the Rogue One novelization.
Pretty brutal.
Pretty brutal. It's pretty brutal. Yeah. Yeah.
Brutal. Yep. Whoops. I just hit the same thing again. Our friend Ken also says, let's see, Supervisor Legret during Rogue One with the loss of Partagas and soon-to-be loss of Yularen as the ISB falls apart. Yeah, I feel like that's a Rogue One from a certain point of view would just be, I think so many of the characters you'd want them to be from Andor, right, Ken?
Yeah, definitely works. I love that they did do that with the point of views, Afra on Dantooine, all those kind of things. That does work for me. I need more of that and less of a rebel naturalist questioning the rebellion while staying back on Hoth, and more of those other characters that we know.
I wanted to jump to the deleted scene from A New Hope where Luke is day drinking with Biggs. While Cassian is making the ultimate sacrifice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it, Ken.
No, with Dedra get out of prison. In my headcanon is she's transferred to a New Republic prison, right?
Oh.
But there's a lot of talk, in publishing, and I think maybe a little bit in Ahsoka about the sort of like we can't. Obviously, there's some Imperials who we've got their records, and if Legret survives, right, Legret's never coming out of prison. But But there's a lot in it's Alphabet Squadron, right, about like how to integrate Imperials, and also in the Mandalorian episode. That's the one I was thinking of.
Dr. Pershing, right?
Dr. Pershing,
yeah.
right?
Rehabilitation programs.
Rehabilitation. Does Dedra end up in a rehabilitation program post Return of the Jedi?
Yeah. We just need you to turn your frown upside down. That's all it would be.
Yeah, I mean, and what happens to Edie?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man.
Mm,
I
she,
mean, I
yeah.
kind of just want that to be a 400-page book.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Bragging to her
Um.
friends that her son is a hero.
Hmm. Hmm. Mm. Maddie Gunner's got another good suggestion from inside the actual film Rogue One. I'd love to know if the guys who fired the Death Star laser for the test on Jedha looked at each other like, "Are we really doing this?"
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great use of this format, right? This great use of format to kind of be here. You could play around with that. And what do they do? Does one quit and the other keep going? Who knows? I like that.
There's also the classic, image of the techs who are exposed to the laser, throwing their arm up over their head. To like, did they know they had to do that, or are they like, "Hey, we haven't put in the protective glass yet"?
Yeah. Yeah, in Rogue One, that's Ryan Johnson and Ron Bergman, right? So just explore those characters. Going, it's a little hot. I don't think there's nothing going inside my body with that. There's no problems.
Mm-hmm. Cameron Stewart says Bale. He was buried in the film, so we could get much more of him. Yes, absolutely. And I love that detail in Rogue One that that Mothma basically says to Bale, like, "Hey, it's going to come to war, so why don't you go activate your Jedi friend?" That the attempt to contact Obi-Wan isn't initially to bring him the Death Star plans, because they don't know that Leia is going to be the one who ends up with them. So getting into that headspace of like, if everybody survived and Cassian returned to Yavin with the Death Star plans, Leia's still going to talk to Obi-Wan, and what is she going to ask him then? And what do they want Kenobi to do then? I would love to get in Mothma and Bale's head about that.
That's a great little wrinkle that turns into some article on a website that we don't want to support or something like that, of just like plot hole, but it's not. I like the idea. Leia was the intention. We got a warrior out there. We got a warrior monk that we know. Let's get him into the fight. But also, hey, we got these plans coming now, so you got to take that. I love that. I love exploring that. And Bale, I don't want to see, these books aren't for the moments. This is the plot, but Bale's perspective on that and telling Leia what the mission is at that point. That's great.
And Dave McKay wants to hear the perspective of one of the Gorlectopods, the spiders.
Yes.
From Gorman.
Yes, would absolutely love that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Very, very cool.
Amrith, yes. Katie O'Brien's character would be all over Dedra trying to recruit her. The two of them on screen together would be so fun. It would be so fun to see them together. I know we're talking about a book, but I go to live action.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. This is a little bit offbeat, but I've been wanting to ask both Ken and Jennifer about it, and get people's take in the comments. There's been a lot of great discussion. Our friend Alex Damon did a fabulous video about how Rogue One feels different now that we have all of Andor, and I finally got a chance to finish watching Rogue One, and I was really impacted by feeling like I always took it that, Saw's breathing thing was a real correlation to Vader, and that's oxygen. But now I feel like he has two pipelines and he can take in oxygen or rhydonium. Ken, watching Rogue One again, did you feel like Saw is huffing rhydonium or taking in life-saving oxygen?
Oxygen for me. And I know, a little bit later on, now we got Bo Willimon going, hey, what if, which is great. And I think it works. Now it could work, but it definitely had the vibe of he has destroyed his body for the cause. And that still stands true. But even watching it Friday, I watched it, and yeah, it's a big gasp of air for me.
Jennifer, were you affected by what Saw was doing in Rogue One? See it differently?
To see it differently, I thought it was oxygen as well, and it just made it even sadder. I actually had to stop. I think I was halfway through the film just because it was just too much, because I watched it directly after Andor. It just felt like painful. I just was, and it was late. I'm like, I just can't do this to myself. This is not good. This is not good for my mental health. So I'll revisit it. Another time.
Fair enough. With a nice big Saw oxygen tank right there. Yeah. Ken, you see any other comments, questions, thoughts that you wanted to share?
Yeah, Cinder has this one here. Who plays Bale going forward? Can the key quarterback be replaced because of injury or only for performance issues? Yeah, fair question, because Benjamin Bratt comes in and out of necessity and does well. As we talked before, there were some rumors about Jimmy Smith's health that have been completely not confirmed, but were out there. So if that ends up being true, then that might be our answer. But if not, I still would go back to Jimmy Smith's for me. Nothing against Benjamin Bratt. I thought it was a wonderful performance. But I think it's, the old sports rule, you can't lose your job due to injury or schedule conflicts. Come on back.
Mm-hmm. Jennifer, what's your take?
I think that, it has to be Jimmy Smith's. But I think it just goes to show you that you can recast a great quote unquote legacy character, and it can still work fantastically, and it served the story well. So let's all remember that when they maybe recast some of our faves. It can happen.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this brave new era of embracing the reality of recasts. I also think that there's, with having Genevieve O'Reilly in Ahsoka, Genevieve O'Reilly used to be young Mon Mothma, and I'm so glad that she can just be Mon Mothma for now. And I would love. I thought Benjamin Bratt did a wonderful job, but I'm attached to Jimmy Smith, so if you can do it, great.
Yep. Attached to Jimmy, but
where do you have hopes of seeing Bale again, Jennifer, in live action storytelling?
Well, my answer is going to be, and that's Leia, Princess of Alderaan, the new series streaming on Disney Plus, starring Vivian Lyra Blair, a little bit older. She's not quite there yet. I think in a couple years she would be right for the age range of the character in the book. But that would be fantastic. That's where I would do it, and that way he has a whole series to explore the character.
Yeah, I always slipped and was like, oh man, I'd love, maybe in the Mandalorian Grogu movie. Then I realized that's, nope, can't happen. I've seen A New Hope. I know what happens.
Well, maybe he escaped. Talk about a change to canon. Hey, give me an Ahsoka flashback. That's just fine. Why not? We're doing the Clone Wars. They get Jimmy Smith's in there if all those rumors are true, that we're getting more Clone Wars revisits in Ahsoka season 2. A Leia show would be fantastic, either an adaptation of Princess of Alderaan or an entirely new story. Why not? Ken, you see other or Jennifer, you see any other comments or chats or suggestions or any other ideas for Rogue One from a certain point of view?
That's interesting. That's interesting, Serenity Jane. If Elizabeth Dulal hadn't been Clea, she would have been a great Leia. Yeah.
Because she is.
There were weird theories that she was, and I've even seen that saying around, like that character should have just been Leia, since she was, she is a good match for Leia, face and everything. But I'm really glad for. I love that both that Clea and Leda had names that were close to Leia, because I think it really invites you to think about what is happening to this generation of women who are growing up in this imperial authoritarianism, and how it drives Leda to go back to even more rigidity, even more tradition. How Clea is affected by the violence of her youth, and how Leia threads that needle. I think it's. I love seeing these characters as sort of a mirrors of Leia's experience.
I'd like them cross the table from each other. Clea and Leia. Sounds like I'm doing some kind of bad sketch, right? The intensity that might be there. Leia's pretty intense, especially at this point, right? She's already out there. She's already helping. She's already doing things. She's delivering Hammerhead Corvettes. I'd love to see them
at a young age. Yeah. PLD says, I honestly do want a ton more from Mon Mothma now. I'm in love with the character. We know so little about her. I agree that she got fleshed out a lot. I would love a little bit more time with Mon Mothma leader. I wouldn't mind if that was, I don't know, need whole Disney Plus series all the time, but hey, a made for Disney Plus 2-hour movie of a critical Mon Mothma leadership moment in the rebellion. And maybe it involves our big three. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe, they're off dealing with something else. And Mon Mothma truly has some great challenge of leadership, because we know her as a character having being a great leader. And I think Andor does show why her kind of leadership is needed in the rebellion. But I would love a story where we get to feel her pain and her triumph as the leader of the Alliance.
I agree with that. And there's a lot of I know we're talking Rogue One era in this anthology book, but there's a lot of time, and no disrespect to the comics, and we address that tomorrow on the news show of expanding comic canon and how it might run up against future shows and stories. But Hoth is a failure in a way, right? So what's the deal with that? And who put us there? And who made that decision? And what's the debates? What's the discussion points around that? You make all your Bothan spy jokes, but something with that. And as Genevieve O'Reilly has said, the weight, the sadness, the despair in Caroline Blankinson's face in Return of the Jedi, that inspired Genevieve to dig into so much more of that character. So always, Mothma now and forever. I want more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people are talking about Perrin. He could show up. Yeah, he could come chasing her down.
Yeah, back in the day.
Take me back, Mon. Yeah. Jennifer, what are your thoughts about more Mon Mothma storytelling?
Back in the day, they would have done a backdoor pilot, I feel, with Andor, and so we would have gotten a whole series about Mon Mothma. But I like James's idea, which is give me the Bothan spy mission for Return of the Jedi with Mon Mothma as a key character. That would be fun. That would be great.
Yeah, that line has been
who would
landing.
helm it? I don't know.
What's that? Who would helm it?
Who would be the showrunner? Yeah, I don't know. Tough act to follow.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people have been talking about the Rogue One moments that land harder with Andor. The many Bothans died to bring us this information. This is a great line in Return of the Jedi to remind us that, hey, all sorts of different people are making these sacrifices. But that line's really been resonating with me because it feels like a Mothma facing Luthen-like realities. Not like she doesn't all the time, but it just feels like it would be a great story of like, how much did she have a personal relationship with them? How much did she get them to take on this risk? How personal is that for her versus, I'm leading a big alliance and I care about everybody, versus is this a Luthen-like thing where she hired them, trained them, then they paid the ultimate sacrifice? And it'd be fascinating.
It would clear things up too, because I remember around Rogue One when it came out, or when it was about to come out, people were wondering about the Bothans, and it's like, well, there's a different timeline, right? So it would be helpful to have those two things bookended.
I'm scrolling feverishly through Pablo Hidalgo's Blue Sky. He's at one point over maybe some of the audience. At some point, here it is. I found it. One day ago, the Bothans didn't steal Death Star plans. Hands you your brochure with the scribbled rantings of a madman. The idea, kind of a misconception, that they got us the information, but they didn't necessarily steal the plans. Well, you got it. You got yourself a stew and a story right there.
That's right.
Yes. That's a lot. Now I want it more.
Yes. They died to bring the information about, about where it is and that the Emperor is going to be on it and all that,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Amaranth, they were, yes, exactly. They were species in Legends. And that's what in my mind, I'm picturing. What was that character from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the rat? That's kind of what they looked like. Splinter. Yeah, I feel like they kind of look like Splinter. Am I right, guys? I don't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah, they were kind of rat lion people is my recollection of what the Bothans look like. But they could be a task force of like the Pathfinders, the Partisans, the Bothans. Like,
Yeah, James right too. They're the info that the Emperor was on Death Star 2. That's the stuff. So that there's just a whole robust story about that second Death Star. People have been making jokes of this since since way before, but 2016. Are we going to get Rogue 2? Well, let's do it. Let's get Rogue 2. I'm on board. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Ken, are there other characters from Andor whose perspective you would want during the events of Rogue One?
I mean, let me run to Edie, Legret. Yeah, all those things. Wonderful. I almost slipped and said Kino Loy. I don't want anything on Kino Loy ever again because it's just perfection. But there's something to that there. But maybe some of the other people who escaped. I saw earlier Dewey and Freedy. How do they arrive at Scab and that empire? Like, there's something absolutely that I would love there. Maybe another daughter of Ferrex. Maybe what's Mosk, Sergeant Mosk, Cyril's buddy. Later on, working down at the factory, like
Yeah.
I can't hear you, sir. I'd love to see him as it goes on. Does he have what is he? What's the moment where he learns about Cyril's passing, but then also what's going on with this rebellion that he had a tiny part in dealing with?
I would love Wilman's story, actually, the more I think about it, because
Oh.
that was one of the things I was really affected by in Rogue One. Cassian's great speech about we've all done awful things for the Empire and it needs to be worth it. And this is the time, that like, why isn't Wilman right there? Because if he existed as a character, he's so assertive of we got to do this, we got to move, we got to go. He would absolutely be joining the Pathfinders group, I think. I really liked, and we talked for almost 2.5 hours about that last arc of Andor. But one detail I really loved was that Wilman had a limp and it just wasn't discussed. Where and how he got it. It's just like he's doing missions, he's missioning.
I'll tell you, a Rogue One and Andor character that I would love to get more on is the voice of Tony Gilroy yelling at any ship taking off without proper permission to take off. Him and Rogue One, who are you? And then with Cassian and K2 leaving, that'd be a total certain point of view story of the paperwork of an uncleared takeoff.
James says Wilman's injury, I think, is why he isn't there. And Lisa says, OMG, I want to know why a novel about Wilman and his gore girlfriend. Yeah, I mean, that could be the point of view story of his gore girlfriend. Like, no, you're not going on this one, Wilman. You're not going to limp your way through this one.
Yeah.
He risked it all.
Well, who doesn't want a French girlfriend? All right,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Someone joked on another live stream, says Amaranth. His girlfriend.
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 Look, I don't like puns and wordplay, but sometimes when they hit, they hit.
Girlfriend.
Jennifer, other thoughts or comments that you wanted to share?
Linus Mosk, David McKay. Now, he didn't die, did he? Did he die?
No,
We never saw him die, right? So he
He's
still
working
could
a
be out
shift.
there.
It's working a double down at the factory.
Oh God, he was such a great character.
Got
And now
Cyril's hat. Yeah.
right now that we have the actor's voice and the face, it would be fun to have a little short story about him. Doing what? I have no idea. But what a great character he was.
Maybe he joins the rebellion. Maybe he sees the error of his ways, or just wants out of his factory job. I don't know.
I love it.
Yeah, but I feel like the Empire made a big deal out of the heroes who died from their perspective in the Gorman massacre, from the propaganda perspective. I mean, they do in the show, but in my mind, there is some like huge over the top Gorman memorial. And so Musk taking off Cyril's cap as he looks at at Cyril's star.
Yeah. That could work.
Yep.
That would be good.
Yep. Yeah.
Super chat from JMB, just a general one. Thanks for that, JMB. This is going to be like chat roulette. Can't hear you guys because of spoilers, but I don't know what you guys have talked about. But coming back to this video later, so leave whatever response you like. JMB, we just thank you. That's our response. Thank you. Thank you for your ongoing support.
Gaz Nottingham brings up an interesting pitch. He says, my pitch for an animated show to link Andor in Rogue One. Pilot the show with Hera and the Ghost crew on Yavin interacting with characters from Andor. The crew departs for Lothal and hands off to Vel as MC. That intersection between Rebels and Andor is really interesting to me, and obviously some of it is just stylistically different because of the storytelling style of Andor and the storytelling style of Rebels. But when I was thinking about it, there's such great similarity about the amount of trauma that the crew of Rebels has been through to the great storytelling in Andor about people's trauma responses in terms of building the rebellion. Ken, what would you be interested in seeing in, Zeb having a conversation with Vel?
I think it would be great because it would blur the lines on these two formats and mediums. Even if it's just on the page, it would make it feel not real, like the animation is less than, like we always say, but just what they bring, their trauma journeys, like you're talking about, and what they're bringing to the fight. It's so similar and powerful. It'd be a wonderful conversation. It'd be a great stage play. Just put someone in a big Zeb costume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Jen's eyes are lighting up. What
Yeah.
are you thinking about?
I'm thinking about all the Disney Broadway shows that they've done, but they've never done a Star Wars one. And you could really get pretty, like, bring in, what's her name? Julie Tambor, who did The Lion King.
Tamor, I think.
Tamor, that's it. Julie Tamor, who did The Lion King. That would be really cool, but where would it be set? Anyways, what were we talking about?
Here,
the intersection between Rebels and Andor characters. Would you be interested in seeing them interact?
In a book, yes. I think it really makes a lot of sense to bridge it. I mean, it's like, just connect the Lego blocks together, please. It just, because it's like right there. It might like smooth things out or introduce new things, and I think it's the right place to do it as opposed to animation or live action. A book is right.
And I would that's like an Alexander Freed joint for me, of just where it's like really intense, detailed, granular, serious. He's kind of got that corner, cornered in the Star Wars lit world. So he does such a good job with it. Love Raid of Empire Mask of Fear. So that's what I'd like to see him write Hera in that way.
Yeah, and people are talking Chopper as well. James says Chopper meets Luthen on screen. Of all the interactions between Rebels characters and Andor characters, that one makes perfect sense. I think those two would be deeply aligned.
What have you done?
Everything. So you're rolling with blasters in both hands, just blasting away. Okay, great.
And then it's our databank brawl version of Chopper with the cape on it from Matt Belknap's Sex Comedy years ago.
Yes.
Jen, I know you got a roll here in a minute or two. You got some errands. Igor the Mad put this one in here. A bigger question beyond just the Rogue One thing, but I wanted to give you a chance to answer it with us, Jen. Hypothetically, what would make you leave Star Wars behind completely inspired by conversation with friends about fandom identity and something like Harry Potter? Big question for you to leave on, Jen. But
yeah, right. Oh my gosh. Well, I've actually thought about this when I was tearing up seeing Mr. George Lucas in person, and how much of a pedestal I put him on, such a tall pedestal. So far, nothing bad has come out other than he's a genius. He is still a man. He is still a human being who could make mistakes. And sure, with the Harry Potter thing, it's really upsetting. And I had the conversation because I was going to introduce my daughter to Harry Potter, and I'm like, no, not going to do it. Not going to do it. I'm not going to support that author in any way, shape, or form, right? And so it would take something like that for me to stop loving Star Wars. Even if there's things that don't resonate with me, I'm going to watch it unless it's somebody who obviously is very problematic. I will not support it. But as of now, knock on wood, we have not had that so much in Star Wars. But you never know. And so at the end of the day, I don't know where I'm going with this. This is such a heavy topic.
I think, for me, there, but for the grace of the Force, go we. I think it's because it's so active and destructive over on that side with rallying in that fandom. But it's hard. I also don't fault any people who don't immediately detangle themselves. It's like an artist. I have a music artist that his music saved my life in some dark moments, and there's some things that came out, and it's like, I don't talk about them publicly. I don't play them on my radio shows, but the music's still there and it's hard. But I also think about it every time, right? So the impact becomes less and less and less with each spin. So that's might be what it be with Star Wars. If it is George, it's not going to be George. But if it was George, there's enough distance. But he still might, you could be saying he's making money off of it. But it would always be there. Even if I was like, no, I'm sticking around, I think it would always be in the back of my head.
I'll share my thoughts on this, but I don't want to keep Jennifer. So to leave on an upbeat moment, what do you want out of more Baston storytelling, Jen?
I don't know Bistan, but one last thing I'll share with you all is there was a great book called Monsters, I believe is what it's called, Monsters. I listened to it on audiobook, and it's fantastic because it talks about how can we separate the monster from their art, and there have been many brilliant monsters, and how do we rectify, like, loving Bullets Over Broadway or Manhattan with a monster, you know what I mean? And then it's like it just becomes so, at the end of the day, it is individual, and we all have the line that we don't want to cross, right? And so and I won't, like, my sister still loves Harry Potter, and it's like it's so complicated, but I know what I have to do is right, and that's what I'm gonna set for my family and my kids. And so anyways, sorry, no Bistan thoughts, but go check out that book. Fine. It's really, really good. It's like it's a long essay. It's fantastic.
Got it. Well, I don't want to. You need to go, right?
Yeah, I got to go pick up my kids.
Okay.
There you go. All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay, I'm not gonna end stream. I'm gonna leave the studio.
I'm kicking you out. Out, and then you can just leave studio.
Yeah. No, I agree that all these kind of conversations are complicated. For me, the Harry Potter one isn't, because it is about directly giving money now. Just down the block, the Harry Potter musical Cursed Child is playing. My wife and I bonded over Harry Potter on our first dates and ordered 2 copies of the books, and they arrived on the same day. And I have happy memories of cracking open those books and reading together. We would have been happy to go down there and see that musical, but that money is going to go directly to harming people who are vulnerable and to harming people I love. And so when there's that direct pipeline of unignorable money, and I think some other people are chatting that as well, that for me is something where I can make a clear decision. I think at this point, Star Wars is this massive, huge thing, right? And it is owned by a corporation, and Disney's going to do things that I don't agree with. Individual creators who have touched Star Wars are going to do things that I don't agree with. George is on a pedestal for me as a creator because he's such a human creator. Because it's true. What I like about Star Wars is sometimes it is wobbly. He does want to almost do too much. He wants it to be a deep myth. He wants it to be a pulp venture. He wants it to be for 12-year-olds, but he also wants it to be really deep and complex and thoughtful. He wants it to be everything. It's so human and almost like flawed and beautiful in its humanness. And all of that comes from George. And George has said things in interviews over the years that I don't agree with. And they're like, I'm not sure about that, George. But he is not... he's in his 80s, and he's probably going to say a couple more weird out of touch things before he leaves us. And I will give him grace. I'll give an 80-year-old person grace for being for having their heart in the right place, and or heart is in the right place and your foot is in your mouth. But that's you get grace from me if you're 80 years old and do that. I don't think anything is going to come out where he has been a monster his entire life and we didn't know. So I don't have a lot of concern about needing to walk away from Star Wars. Disney just did a Star Wars experiment with AI that I don't agree with and I don't like, and I think is bad art. But I'm not going to walk away. It would take a lot to walk away from Star Wars. And even if I did walk away from Star Wars, I would walk away from current consumption where there's a traceable financial choice in this moment. But I would keep my action figures. There are artists I like who are like, I understand that they have said things, or, mostly older artists like Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis is a complicated, problematic person. There are people who hate him, but like, I'm not actively giving him money now, and I get a lot from his art, and that's my choice. And for me, that's kind of how I separate things.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. We always have that case by case, but but I think it's also important to learn, a lot who these people are and how they drove them to create, and analyzing the good ways to do that, the bad ways. I'm fascinated by that kind of stuff outside of some of what we're talking about with the franchise and someone saying something, but yeah. Right now, we're pretty good. We're good.
We're good. Yep.
Yeah. Extra cheddar going back to Rogue One and Andor. Would love to know what Dodonna and Merrick were up to off at Yavin. Yeah, I absolutely. What did they? I think in my head they were going to recruit, maybe pick up some people or some equipment. But it needed the attention of two generals. It was big, or they were just like going to another planet to pick up food. It could have been that. It could have been like an order.
The Rebel Alliance was set up by Mon Mothma and Bail to be a better organization, which means I think all rebels have PTO. So I think they were just having a weekend,
just traveling off,
enjoying some pisos on Niamos.
Yeah. I think because they had a team meeting coming, right? A quorum was coming, so maybe they were picking up, Radis is like, I want a Detroit style pizza, and they had to go to another planet. We'll go pick it up. But I like the PTO thing.
I know I talked about it on the our discussion, but it's still one of my favorite things of like, well, Star Wars canon, whatever, and like, but we need to know exactly where Dodonna and Merrick was. Why weren't they here?
Absolutely. Yeah, Gaz said, could Dodonna have been the battle of Chopper Base? Yeah, absolutely. Could have been tying up some loose ends over there. Important thing is, do we get a story of the Bendu at any point? Rogue One,
I fully expect him to show up in Ahsoka season 3.
I'd put some money down on that. I think I could be on that.
Gonzalo R says that Dodonna and Merrick were on a Revnog run from the amount that everyone was refilling. They're running out real fast.
I love that. We're here for about 10 more minutes or so. If you got some questions about our main topic, Rogue One, the anthology book that we're editing in our brains here, our headcanon, let us know characters we're missing, moments we're missing. I'd love it's just those moments too. It's the characters and their perspective on the moments. There's a lot of wonderful things in Rogue One. Wonderful, even though it's sad and intense. Or any other questions, let us know.
Yeah. I would love Vinay. I've read the first 3 issues of the new Charles Soule Kylo Ren comic book run. And there's some great Vinay content, some great Vinay storytelling. But I feel like Vinay, especially the way he's been developed in publishing, of like just a gossipy little cultist who worships Vader. I imagine a whole chapter of him just shit talking Orson Krennic in his own mind. That would be great.
Love that idea. Igor the Mad says for the anthology book, give me the story of the Jedi who was the fallen statue on Jeddah.
The statue itself gets covered in the High Republic. It's toppling.
That's right.
But I can't remember how much of the actual Jedi.
Good point. David McKay, they told the story of what happened to Tivik's arm. There you go.
Yep.
And there was a interview. Many we cover on the news show tomorrow. Several of Tony Gilroy's interviews and other. But they were talking about. They were actually looking at the availability of Daniel Mays, the actor who plays Tivik. They thought they might have needed him, and they realized the story didn't require it. So what that means is we got some room with some Tivik storytelling.
Where Cameron Stewart says, where is Quadpaw? Is he safe? Is he all right? Yeah, he's kind of a one we don't talk about as much of, that gave a little bit of a pulp and alien flair to the first season of Andor, in an otherwise deadly serious episode.
Right next to doing free one. I do like James has a Palpatine's POV during Rogue One. Not to turn it into a robot chicken sketch, but just like, hey, we have to interrupt you, Sheev. Like, they got the plans. They what? They got the plans. Damn it, Vader, this is on you. Like, love all that. I could take some Palpatine, and not the shakes Shakespeare stuff they do. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, the raging at the ISB, right? And the decisions to get rid of everybody, who's got to, because Palpatine should appreciate Partagaz more. Partagaz is good at his job.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know Leo's story ends, but I'd take some Partagaz throughout some things. Tarkin having a point of view, and he's been in before, been in the New Hope one, obviously, but just of him taking any joy of, maybe in the Rogue One novelization they covered it, but any joy of killing Krennic with his own weapon, that'd be kind of interesting.
Ronald White, who asked this question in our Patreon, thank you, Ronald, says, hello, so happy you took my question. I'd like to see the point of view of an Empire staff member who's sees Tarkin and Krennic arguing. We stand here amidst my achievement, and there's some Imperial going over there going, this could have been an email.
Why are we on teams? Why are we on Empire teams? We don't need to be on it.
Yep. Ronald White also says, very wisely, and you need Melshi as well. That was another thing that hit me in Rogue One, that we don't actually see Melshi's end.
Yep. I agree with that. Rewatching it, it's there's so much. You're just thinking of Narkina. You're just thinking of all the things. Thinking of the poker match, that they just had the 2 nights prior. Like it's really effective. The series, Andor's really effective to build them up. So his loss is quick and too fast for me. It's just too fast.
You see other things you wanted to chat about, Ken?
I was fitting as just a general question. Is the ISB disbanded after all this happens?
That was my understanding post Endor. I'm on Wikipedia.
I don't. Yeah, in terms of.
It looks like they're featured in ongoing storytelling in Afra and let's see, where else is this? In Outlaws. So I would imagine that they're sort of restructured. Clearly, that iteration seems to get gutted.
Some leadership change. Yeah, some leadership change. Some field promotions.
Yep. Wikipedia says, following the destruction of the first Death Star, the ISB engaged in an increasing number of operations to root out the growing rebellion and became busier than any previous time in its history. So, I mean, man, if people want another ISB or another Andor-like story, the ISB, good dark Star Wars procedural.
Yeah. Oh gosh, the anti-Law and Order. Yeah, Moff Gideon was ISB as well. Yeah. I agree with that. Pancho Mike wants the tale of the Death Star died. No, go. What has it seen? Yeah, how many other people has it realized is a chosen one? I love that. Cameron Stewart has it going in Andor character. Davos Skolden. Need to see him crashing out. Yeah. To me, there's that final parent scene, which we discuss more in the Star Wars News Show tomorrow. There's a lot of ways to read it. My initial reaction, I'm not saying it's right. I don't know any interviews to clarify it, blah, 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 but that Skolden ain't around. Like, I don't think he's alive.
I can imagine a path where things ain't great for Skolden because he had a connection to Luthen. He let Luthen close to people of power at his parties. And Perrin seems to have escaped the axe, but I wonder if Chandrilla in general had a rougher time after Mothma's speech. Yeah,
I absolutely think that would track Chandrilla, Alderaan. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Wikipedia also claims that Beaumont Kin feels that the ISB's influence was downgraded after the destruction of the Death Star. So, open season for storytelling.
There you go.
At the end of the day,
that's all up for debate. There you go. Any other things jumping out to you? Boombox Music wants Intersection Rebels and Endor. That's a great opportunity for Tales of the Rebellion shorts. I do want some Tales of the Rebellion. I absolutely would love that. I don't know if it's on Dave's agenda if he feels there's characters that he needs to address. That's, I think, a driving force, and I don't say that cynically, but a driving force in the Tales of series. But I think it would be great.
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic too. And as somebody else was saying much earlier, like just all of this great storytelling has made them more interested in the rebellion. And I would love to see more rebellion storytelling connecting the dots of how Mothma's leadership went, how people feel about the Force and Luke's presence as a Jedi. Like, I know other things have touched on that, but it'd be great to, let's get the Force healer. Hey, Rogue One, you know what? That's the POV story I really want from a Rogue One book, of the Force healer going, oh, that's what that was about.
Yeah. Oh, now I figured out.
Yep.
There you go. Well, we're about done here. So we're wrapping up here. We got a question from Dennis Gill about the droid gotcha. Chances we'd see the droid gotcha, the Robot Mafia. We saw a similar group in Bad Batch called the Vanguard Axis. That is right. Yeah, I'd love to see it. You know, that'd be something if there was ever to be like a Book of Boba Fett 2. I don't think there is, but that'd be kind of fun to have it dealt with there.
Yeah, love it. Love it.
Yep.
Should we close out with this super chat from Kelly Kidd?
I believe so.
What is the meaning of life? Asking for a friend. Okay, just going to denote the required 42 joke from Douglas Adams. And
42. Yep.
Ken, what is the meaning of life?
I think to wake up every day, one step away from who you were yesterday. Continual growth. And a little joy and a lot of treats along the way.
Yes, I think it is to evolve and find joy for yourself while contributing to the joy of others, if at all possible.
That's a good thing as well. So there you go. We solved it. We did it. We solved life. We solved Star Wars. We solved it all. Thank you all for joining us today. We appreciate you also allowing us to delay for a day while I was traveling, and we're going to do that again next week, like Joseph said. Next Tuesday, you all go have a Memorial Day if you're celebrating that or taking the day off. We'll be back Tuesday, noon Pacific, to take more questions. New show tomorrow, and that's it for our videos this week. But you also check out the podcast feed to get Databank Brawl. We're cooking along. We're into the 70s. But we still haven't got the Tony Thaxton theme song. I forgot it took about a year or two to get that meet that goal on Patreon and hire Tony to do it.
Well, we are very, very lucky that we got that theme song eventually.
Yeah, indeed. So there you go, everybody. If you're watching later, thanks for watching the replay. Give us a comment, leave us a like, all those good things. For those on the podcast feed, we appreciate you over there. You can support us directly. Patreon.com/ForceCenter. I got a live show, Flappers Comedy Club, May 30th. Mark Ellis and I co-headline on Come On By. My website, KenNapzok.com, has more information. Joseph, where can they find you if they would like to?
Yeah, you can follow me on Blue Sky, or you can sign up for my weekly blog letter about creative and life adventures. That's called Finish Your Monsters. You can just Google Joseph Scrimshaw, Finish Your Monsters, and it'll pop right up. Thanks to everybody who has signed up.
That is right. As I reset the music, because I forgot our end theme isn't as long as I think it is in my mind. We'll see you next time. Bye.